For people claiming land rich in mineral wealth or in cities where property prices are at a premium, land claims are not only about dignity and the right to a home, they are also about access to money and power. I'm Xoli Mngambi. This week, eNCA concludes its series on the lessons learned from ordinary South Africans about land reform. Many rural communities live under tribal authorities. The chief's role is to act as custodian of communal assets and protect their interests. But when billions of rands are at stake, issues of accountability may arise between the community and traditional authority. Kathy Mutlahlana spent some time with the Bakhatla Bakhafela in the northwest. That community has a troubling story to tell.
Can you see there are more crowds here? This is the heart of the Northwest economy. Tons of platinum are extracted from this land. In fact, 90% of the world's demand. It's a valuable industry which creates jobs and is supposed to benefit communities. But in reality, that's just not happening. They may have platinum in their backyards, but many of the residents here still live in abject poverty. Their situation is not unique in that they form part of 32 villages which fall under the Bakhatla Bakhafela. Now, people in these communities say they've benefited very little from the rich mineral resources around them. Our journey begins with a group of elders from the village Motlabe, and they're not happy. Their battle with local chief Nyalala Pilane ended up at the Constitutional Court. The Bakhatla is worth an estimated 15 billion rand, of which locals are yet to see a cent of. The chief prevented them from meeting other community members in an attempt to stop them from breaking away from the tribe. While the court upheld their right to meet, there still appears to be a reign of terror.
No one is allowed to stop me from the meeting. I was given the permission by the Chief Justice of South Africa. Maraleano against. I guess I attend the meetings to wanna go intimidate you. You are the I'm a problem.
The community is holding on to all the documents relating to the ownership of land dating back to the early 1900s. Now it's considering heading back to court, hoping to claim ownership of some of the land. In the village of Mokhwase, about an hour away from here, tensions are also running high. The elders of this community have been meeting here since around the 1960s, or as many of them have told us, for as long as they can remember. And today they've convened a special lekgotla to tell us part of their story. Their main grievance relates to the 6-year-old Pilanesberg platinum mine.
We started to question this issue of mining relating to the tribal lands. Now, and we were told that the documents relating to those prospecting contracts were kept by attorneys, and we started to ask, Now, who are those attorneys and with whom did they consult for them to get the permission to use the land that belongs to those communities? How do you mine on top of the poorest of the poor and you're not consulting them?
But as they searched for answers, the mining continued. It's now expanding onto property residents are still using. Some community members still live here.
There is this thing that is called impact assessment, that you've got to check how the money is going to affect the local people and the cattle, everything. Now, that was never completed. They started it, but it was never completed. If you conduct an open cast, it tantamount to forceful removal, because then you have to vacate the land for your own safety.
As they show us the property, the residents reminisce about the days when this land was bountiful. They share the great expectations they had when mining began.
You cannot walk into my house and start to make me a servant inside my house. That's the problem. And that's the biggest dilemma that we're facing.
This is all that remains of this land, which was once flourishing. Although the residents have tried to raise their concerns in court and with government, their cries have fallen on deaf ears. They've also given up on trying to get the chief's attention. He's apparently avoided them for the past 6 years. After hearing the residents' complaints, we immediately head to Chief Nyalala Pilani. He has a different view.
To be honest, some of the disturbances and splinter groups within the communities are funded by these opposite business communities, oppositions. They want to come in and move others because they see the vulnerability of the communities. And I think it's something that is really heartbreaking. And unfortunately, our people fall prey to that because of this quick fix that we have now as kind of entitlement to anything. When I came in here, there was nothing.
He says the offices of the Moreleng Tribal Authority, a local mall, stadium, and a road connecting all of them are some of his greatest achievements while in office.
I had to go all out to do all these things that you see now. And all of a sudden, by bringing those things, it means I'm greedy for myself. I had to build our own road. I had to bring our own water. I had to bring our own electricity. And it's not our role, really, to take the government's role. But it was just out of the goodwill to try and fast-track the development of our people.
Do you personally consult with the community?
It does not have to be me. It's a leadership. I'm not a leadership. I'm a leader of the people, but there are people who are assisting in doing that, because otherwise, if it has to be me, then things are going to stuck. Other things are going to stuck. So yes, I do personally, but it does not have to be me only, because I'm not the only leader.
What about the expansion of mining projects? One of the major complaints that this community has raised are that they are not consulted in terms of the expansion of mining that's taking place in this area, to be more specific, of the Pilanesberg Platinum Mine.
There has been a thorough consultation, and the reports are there. The resolutions were taken as exactly how I tell you. But unfortunately, with our people, when things start to be brighter, everybody wants to come and disrupt and be part of it, even if he is not really in the leadership.
It appears that Chief Nyalala works closely with the Pilanesberg Platinum Mine, but neither of them engage directly with ordinary community members.
There is direct engagement with the community, but our engagement, it's structured. It actually happens through the Bakhatla Bakafela Traditional Authority. We want to avoid a situation where when communities see mines develop in the area, people then have the tendency maybe to just walk directly to the mine and ask for help. We want to really structure our relationship with the community to work through the relevant leadership structures of the community.
The chief accuses the community of deliberately bringing cattle onto the land in a desperate attempt for compensation. But with some cattle already on existing mining property, that claim seems rather unlikely. Customary law experts say it's illegal for a chief to make decisions on his own.
Both the statutes and customary law are quite clear that the chief should be accountable both financially and in taking decisions. He paid one lawyer 49 million rand in 3 years in litigation to defend his position against people's attempts to hold him accountable. The really sad thing is that the community's assets are used to pay the lawyers. Since Nyalala Pilani was acquitted of fraud, you have an investment by the Industrial Development Corporation, so that's a state institution, of 3.2 billion rand in one of his companies.
It appears these allegations may not be completely unfounded. When we approached the National Department of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs, it coincidentally turned out the Deputy Minister had already met with the chief.
I fortunately had a meeting with him last week, and he did explain to me that, frustrated by the limitation of the Traditional Affairs Framework Act, which is not developmental in nature, and he then pointed to that particular section that prohibits traditional leaders to directly enter into any businesses because it's not development, even if you do it on behalf of the community. And so what then he opted was to go through the Companies Act by registering a number of companies, and therefore, obviously, because they were privately opened, people might then have issues with them in terms of whether every cent that goes through any business transactions is accounted for.
So Nawile Mwana has been researching the impact of mining on rural communities. He believes it's the allegations of corruption that lost the chief respect amongst locals.
I would say significantly, people have lost faith first in the state. They do not really see the state as assisting them. And they've lost faith in the justice system of South Africa. And because they felt that throughout the years that they have been interdicted by the chief, and throughout the years that they have had court battles against the tribal authority, they have lost.
Mwama also found that locals are hardly benefiting from the land they own.
Most of the land claiming groups in these areas, they are contesting that these mineral-rich farms were historically purchased by their forefathers. So the current chiefs that are now mediating the relationships between the mines and the communities are not the rightful owners of the land. People would like to remove the power of the chief from the communal resources.
And do you think that their position would be different if they were actually benefiting directly from the mines and if that investment from the mines was visible in their community?
I think so, absolutely. I think the situation would be very different.
The Northwest Premier believes resolving the issues must begin at a national level.
The problem is firstly from the department, the national department itself. I think if they can tighten the processes of allocating licenses, for instance, people go and apply for a license and they bring fictitious resolutions that come from the villages. The department doesn't on its own establish independent processes that seek to confirm that the processes were legit and that the communities are happy.
The Premier insists that unlike his predecessors who turned a blind eye to the complaints of the village, he is on the side of the community. He says his department will go to the Bakgatla villages and follow up on their concerns. And while we wait to see if he'll deliver on that promise, the national government has admitted that the Traditional Council is the only structure available to the community. But even there, the chiefs approve the agendas. This leaves residents with very few options.
Basically, what they need are really experienced lawyers that can lift the issue out of what's going on in the province and get the bright light of the Constitution shone on the way that customary law is interpreted in the Northwest High Court.
As we are crying, platinum is being extracted. And by the time somebody hears what we are saying, that piece of land will be gone.
Kathy Moshahlana, Northwest.